Picture yourself sprawled on a lumpy reed mat in a Mesopotamian courtyard, circa 1800 BCE, the air thick with the scent of slightly burnt barley cakes, myrrh, and the faint whiff of a neighbor's unwashed tunic. The stars are out, the goats are mercifully quiet, and some chatty elder is spinning tales of unexplained oddities that have baffled everyone from priests to nosy shepherds. These myths, wild, weird, and wonderfully absurd, were the ancient world's version of late-night radio, designed to make you ponder, chuckle, and maybe doze off before the storyteller gets too carried away. We're not here to solve these mysteries. Good luck with that, pal. But to let their quirky charm wrap you up like a slightly scratchy wool blanket, with a few giggles to sweeten the deal. So dim the imaginary lamp, ignore the camel snoring next door, and let the clink of clay cups and the cheeky drone of ancient yarns lull you into a cozy, bemused slumber. We're diving into 10 of these head-scratching tales, each a peek into the ancient world's wild imagination, from Sumerian stars that couldn't follow directions to Greek seas with a penchant for karaoke. We'll wander through ziggurats, olive groves, and dusty temples, savoring the absurdity of it all, the scent of incense, the clatter of pottery, the occasional, wait, what? Of a story that makes no sense. These myths were the ancient equivalent of a viral internet thread. Half awe, half. Did they really believe that? Grab a mental fig, settle in, and let's giggle our way through history's unsolved riddles, each one a snooze-inducing gem. If you strip away the goats, the tunics, and the faint smell of overdone barley stew, the myths in calm, boring, sleepy history. Unexplained myths to fall asleep, to feel less like dusty relics of the past, and more like oddly familiar snapshots of how humans still handle the unexplained today. We may no longer huddle by a smoky brazier or pass amphorae of wine around a symposium while speculating about rogue stars and singing seas, but the urge to turn puzzling events into shareable, entertaining stories hasn't gone anywhere. We just have Wi-Fi now. These ancient tales of wandering shadows, gossiping forests, rivers that forget how gravity works, dragons that roar without showing up, skies that throw light parties, bodiless jaguar eyes, eternal flames, and statues that cry. Each have a modern cousin. The stage has changed, the costumes are new, but the human performance is exactly the same. Encounter something odd, build a story around it, share it with others, and enjoy the mix of wonder, speculation, and humor that follows. Take the Sumerian star that couldn't stick to the script. In 1800 BCE, when a star refused to follow its neat cosmic choreography, priests got huffy, scribes grumbled into their clay tablets, and villagers stared at the sky, muttering their own theories. The sky was supposed to be orderly, Enlil's tidy map of celestial sheep, and this robed light was an affront to cosmic management. Fast forward 3,800 years, and we've simply swapped the clay tablets for Twitter feeds and the priests for astrophysicists on late-night talk shows. The modern equivalents are UFO sightings, or what the U.S. Department of Defense now calls UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. When blurry fighter jet footage shows something darting across the sky at improbable speeds, the internet lights up with threads dissecting every frame. Just as Sumerian farmers might pause mid-hoe to squint at the heavens, modern commuters stop mid-scroll, eyes glued to shaky cell phone videos of glowing orbs over Phoenix. the same mix of awe, suspicion, and communal storytelling emerges. The difference is that today's priests, scientists, journalists, and influencers compete to interpret the sighting not in terms of divine omens, but in terms of alien visitors, black-budget tech, or camera glitches. Yet the dynamic is unchanged. Unexplained light plus communal speculation equals a social event. The Greek sea that thought it was an opera star is another myth with a distinctly modern twin. In 400 BCE, when sailors swore they heard waves singing in the dark, poets imagined nymphs rehearsing for Poseidon's grand concert, and fishermen tossed wine into the surf as a kind of watery tip jar. Today, we get viral stories about the bloop, the ultra-low frequency underwater sound detected in the Pacific in 1997, which sparked theories about colossal sea monsters, secret submarines, or Lovecraftian horrors stirring in the deep. More recently, we've seen the spread of mysterious hums, low droning noises that entire towns report hearing without a clear source. In both cases, sound becomes an open-ended prompt for human imagination. The ancient Greek response was to weave it into the tapestry of mythology, tying it to divine personalities and offering rituals to keep the ocean happy. The modern response is to weave it into online discourse, tying it to conspiracies, speculative fiction, and sometimes crowdfunding campaigns to investigate. Whether you're at a Cretan cliffside in 400 BCE or in a Reddit thread in 2024, the experience of leaning in and saying, "Wait, did you hear that?" is timeless. The Egyptian shadow that ghosted its owner has its contemporary echoes in what we now call shadow people, sightings. In ancient Thebes, a shadow wandering around without a human was a cosmological violation. The ka and the physical body were supposed to stick together. Priests would mutter prayers, throw lotus flowers on altars, and record the incident on temple walls, knowing it was serious spiritual business. Today, we have entire YouTube channels dedicated to doorbell camera footage of unexplained figures and paranormal. TikToks with captions like, "You won't believe what walked past my kitchen." The difference is that in 1200 BCE, seeing a shadow out of place meant possible imbalance in the cosmic order. In 2025, it might mean millions of views and a sponsorship deal with a ghost hunting gear company. Still, the core behavior is identical. A fleeting, unexplained movement in peripheral vision triggers a wave of storytelling, sharing, and group theorizing. People comment with their own sightings just as ancient villagers swapped theories by the Nile. The tools have changed. The need to collectively process weirdness has not. The Celtic forest that wouldn't shut up slots neatly into today's fascination with haunted or enchanted locations. In 300 BCE Brittany, a forest whispering without wind meant the trees themselves were alive, passing along news or warnings from the spirit world. Druids might have staged ceremonies to interpret the words, and farmers would leave offerings to stay on the tree's good side. In the 21st century, that same sound might be captured on a smartphone in a foggy woodland and uploaded to TikTok with the caption, "You can hear the trees talking." The comment section would explode with everything from a SMA appreciation to theories about environmental anomalies, spirits, or even time travelers. Modern tourism boards have figured out this human weakness for mysterious soundscapes, promoting forests that whisper or canyons that sing as must-visit spots. The ancient Gaulish villager by the fire pit and the modern urbanite on a weekend getaway both lean in to listen, wide-eyed, ready to tell someone about it later. The Indian River that flowed the wrong way is just the ancient version of the modern viral reverse waterfall video. In 500 BCE, Vedic sages might interpret a river's uphill flow as a sign from Varuna or a disruption in cosmic balance. Today, people record similar phenomena during storms or monsoons, when wind and water pressure push rivers or waterfalls in unexpected directions. We have the physics to explain it now, but that doesn't stop the comment section from turning it into symbolic prophecy. The earth is healing, nature is rebelling, or the matrix is glitching. In both worlds, the event becomes more than a curiosity. It's a mirror for the fears, hopes, and humor of the time. Ancient pilgrims left rice offerings at the riverbank. Modern viewers leave emojis and hashtags in digital offerings of attention. The Chinese dragon that yelled without showing up feels uncannily like reports of skyquakes or mystery booms heard around the world today. In 200 BCE, a roar from a hill in Shanxi with no dragon to be found would have been logged as a portent, potentially influencing imperial decisions. In our time, loud, unexplained booms prompt Facebook group threads, local news segments, and occasionally military denials. Theories range from secret weapons testing to geological shift to it's definitely aliens. The Han Dynasty scholar and the modern sound engineer share the same puzzled posture, squinting into the distance, trying to fit the sound into an understandable framework, all while neighbors or followers whisper their own versions of the truth. The Norse sky that partied too hard, the Aurora Borealis myth, has survived with surprisingly little reinterpretation. In 100 CE Scandinavia, glowing curtains of green and pink light were the armor of Valkyries or the path to Valhalla. Today, even knowing about solar winds and magnetic fields, we still talk about the northern lights in hushed, reverent tones. Photographers chase them across Iceland and Canada, and Instagram feeds glow with the same awe that Norse skalds once captured in sagas. The divine dance party has simply become a bucket list travel moment. But the emotional core hasn't changed. People still stand under the lights and feel, for a brief moment, that the sky is alive and watching. The Mayan jaguar eyes that stalked Solo parallels modern cryptid culture. Think Bigfoot sightings, Mothman reports, or glowing eyes caught on night vision cameras. In 200 CE Yucatan, two unblinking eyes in the dark without a body would be tied to the jaguar's role as a guardian of the underworld. Rituals would follow, stories would spread, and the eyes would be woven into the community's ongoing spiritual map. Today, similar images on trail cameras spark Reddit debates, YouTube analyzes, and endless re-uploads with spooky music overlays. Whether it's ancient maize offerings or modern clickbait thumbnails, the reaction is the same. Respect the mystery, but also make sure everyone hears about it. The Mesopotamian flame that didn't need fuel is the ancestor of our fascination with eternal flames and unexplained fires. In 1000 BCE Babylon, a flame burning without wood or oil was a public wonder, a sign of divine favor or meddling. In 2025, a naturally fueled underground fire might make headlines as a mystery flame and become a roadside attraction. Both eras invest symbolic meaning into the endurance of fire. For Mesopotamians, it was a god's presence. For For us, it's often tied to remembrance, resilience, or the spirit of a place. Either way, people gather around it, talk about it, and feel a little better knowing it's there. Finally, the Roman statue that got too emotional has plenty of modern equivalents in weeping or bleeding religious statues reported around the world. In 100 CE Rome, tears on Juno's marble face might spur Senate debates and public rituals. Today, a similar claim might draw pilgrims, skeptics, and news crews in equal measure. Both then and now, the phenomenon becomes a test of belief. Some see a miracle, others suspect a leak, but everyone agrees it's worth talking about. And in both cases, the statue's behavior becomes a mirror for the community's concerns, whether about politics, morality, or the divine mood. What unites all of these comparisons is that humans, ancient or modern, rarely let the unexplained sit in silence. We turn it into a story, sometimes to make sense of it, sometimes just to make it more fun to share. The tools have evolved from clay tablets to smartphones, from temple altars to comment sections, but the emotional recipe remains steady. Start with an anomaly. Add a dash of speculation, stir and shared laughter or awe, and serve to the community. In both eras, these stories strengthen social bonds, allowing people to feel part of something larger, whether it's a city-state by the Nile or a global network of Reddit users. And in both eras, the line between serious interpretation and playful mockery is wonderfully thin. The Sumerian farmer joking about the star's ego, and the Twitter user posting a meme about aliens and the bloop are, in spirit, the same person. Ultimately, the myths remind us that even as our explanations have become more technical and our storytelling platforms more sophisticated, our core relationship with mystery hasn't changed. We still look up, listen closely, peer into the shadows, and then turn to the nearest person or the nearest online audience and say, "You're not going to believe this." That impulse is as old as civilization and as enduring as a flame that doesn't need fuel. Imagine lounging by a smoky brazier in a Sumerian village, 1800 BCE, the air ripe with the aroma of stale beer, clay dust, and someone's overzealous attempt at roasting goat. The local storyteller, probably 3 cups deep into his barley brew, is yammering about the wandering star, a celestial diva that refused to follow the other stars' choreography. The air's buzzing with the murmurs of villagers, the rustle of their questionable fashion choices, tunics again, and the clink of a clay mug hitting the ground. This star, the ultimate cosmic rebel, baffled priests who like their skies predictable. Thank you very much. Let's dive into this tale, letting the crackle of the fire, the whiff of singed wool, and the storyteller's tipsy enthusiasm tickle your funny bone and nudge you toward a nap. The myth goes that Enlil, the sky god with a thing for order, set the stars in neat little rows, like obedient sheep. But one star, let's call it the cosmic delinquent, zipped around like it had a personal vendetta against astrology. Clay tablets from yore, scratched out by some very annoyed scribes, mention this rogue light, the air once thick with the sound of their grumbling and the smell of damp clay. Villagers craned their necks, squinting at the sky, probably muttering, "Who invited that guy? Was it a god's midlife crisis or a celestial prank?" Nobody had a clue, and the air was tense with the sound of priests arguing over whose fault it was. Life revolved around this starry scofflaw. Farmers, pausing mid-hoe to gawk, probably blamed it for their wilted crops. The air heavy with the thud of tools and the scent of despair Priests tossed barley at altars, muttering prayers to Anu, the air warm with the clink of grain and the faint hope they'd figure it out before the next festival. Kids loved it though, whispering tales of the star stealing Enlil's thunder, their giggles mixing with the rustle of reeds. The community ate it up, swapping theories by firelight, the air thick with the scent of oil and the kind of laughter you get when nobody knows what's going on. The star kept wandering, a cosmic middle finger to order, and as its light fades, let's drift to Greece, where the sea decided it was time to join a choir. Picture yourself perched on a rocky cliff near Athens, 400 BCE, the air tangy with salt, olive oil, and the faint whiff of a fisherman who's definitely not winning any hygiene awards. The sea's glittering below, and some poet with too much time on his hands is spinning a yarn about the singing sea, where waves apparently belt out tunes on moonless nights. The air's alive with the crash of water, the rustle of cloaks, and the occasional hush, I'm listening, from a sailor who's had one too many swigs of wine. This myth, which even Socrates probably rolled his eyes at, had Greeks scratching their heads. Let's wade into this absurdity, letting the lap of waves, the scent of brine, and the poet's dramatic flair make you chuckle as you drift toward sleep. The story claims the sea near Crete started humming show tunes, or at least something close, with no singers in sight. Homeric hymns scribbled by poets with a flair for the dramatic hint at these ghostly crooners, nymphs maybe, or Poseidon having a laugh. Sailors pausing their rowing to eavesdrop probably muttered, "Great, now the ocean's got a better voice than me," the air filled with the creak of oars and the smell of tar. Nobody saw these aquatic divas, and the air was thick with the sound of baffled sailors and the hope they weren't cursed. Daily life got a bit theatrical thanks to this myth. Fishermen tossing wine into the waves like they were bribing a diva filled the air with splashes and prayers to Poseidon, probably muttering, "Just sing quieter, okay?" Women mending nets on the shore swapped theories. Maybe it was sirens practicing off-key, the air heavy with the clack of reeds and the scent of fish. Temples to the sea god got extra smoky, the air tense with offerings and priests droning on about divine karaoke. The community loved the gossip, swapping stories at symposia, the air thick with wine fumes and laughter at the sea's audacity. The singing stayed unexplained, a watery mystery that probably annoyed everyone trying to sleep nearby. As the waves quiet, let's float to Egypt, where a shadow decided it didn't need a body to cause a stir. Imagine lounging by the Nile in Thebes, 1200 BCE, the air heavy with the scent of papyrus, lotus flowers, and the faint stink of someone's sandal that's seen better days. A priest, probably sweating through his linen kilt, is whispering about a shadow that wandered solo. No human attached, creeping along temple walls like it had somewhere better to be. The air's buzzing with the gasps of listeners, the rustle of their fancy headscarves, and the clink of a dropped water jar. This myth, scratched onto some dusty inscription, had even the sharpest priests stumped. Let's sneak into this tale, letting the flicker of a lamp, the whiff of myrrh, and the priest's overly serious tone make you snicker as you sink toward slumber. The story goes that a shadow, bold as brass, slinked around near the Valley of the Kings, no body in sight. Inscriptions from Karnak, etched by scribes who were clearly over it, mention this shady character, the air once thick with the scratch of reed pens and the smell of ink. Villagers gawked, probably muttering, "Who does this shadow think it is?" freelancing like that? Was it Anubis pulling a prank or a ghost with a grudge? The air was tense with priests muttering prayers to Osiris and hoping they wouldn't have to deal with more of this nonsense. Life got a bit spooky around this myth. Scribes, pausing their papyrus, scribbling to squint at walls, probably grumbled about over time, the air filled with the scratch of pens and the scent of dust. Priests chucked lotus flowers at altars, the air warm with the clink of offerings and the faint hope the shadow would just chill. Kids loved it, though, whispering tales of it sneaking into tombs, their giggles mixing with the rustle of reeds. The community swapped theories by lamplight, the air thick with oil fumes and chuckles at the shadow's nerve. The shadow kept wandering, a spectral diva with no master, and as its silhouette fades, let's hop to Gaul, where a forest decided to have a chat without wind. Picture yourself huddled by a fire pit in Gaul, 300 BCE, the air crisp with the scent of oak, damp earth, and the faint whiff of someone's unwashed cloak. A druid, looking like he's auditioning for a wizard role, is droning on about a forest that whispered without a breeze, its trees apparently gossiping louder than the village busybody. The air is alive with the crackle of flames, the rustle of wool, and the clink of a bronze cup someone's dropped in excitement. This myth, passed down through oral tales, had even the druids scratching their beards. Let's wander into this chatty woodland, letting the scent of smoke, the hum of the druid, and the forest's cheeky whispers tickle you into a doze. The tale claims a forest in Brittany started murmuring, no wind required, its words as clear as a drunk uncle's advice. Roman scribes later jotted this down, probably rolling their eyes. The air once thick with the chant of druids and the smell of herbs. Travelers froze mid-step, clutching staffs, probably muttering, "Trees, seriously, get a hobby." The air was filled with the creak of leather and the scent of moss, tense with the hope it wasn't a curse. Was it the earth gods chatting or spirits with too much time? Nobody knew, and the air buzzed with confused shrugs. Life got chatty around this myth. Farmers, tossing milk at the trees like they were bribing a bard, filled the air with splashes and prayers, probably grumbling, "Talk less, grow more acorns." Women weaving by the fire swapped theories. Maybe the trees were just bored, the air heavy, with the clack of looms and the scent of wool. Shrines to the earth got extra offerings, the air tense with druids droning about divine small talk. The community loved the tale, giggling over it by firelight, the air thick with smoke and the kind of laughter you get when trees out-talk you. The whispers stayed unexplained, a leafy mystery, and as the forest quiets, let's drift to India, where a river decided gravity was optional. Imagine lounging by a temple in the Indus Valley, 500 BCE, the air warm with the scent of sandalwood, lotus, and the faint tang of someone's overspiced curry. A priest, looking like he's about to drop some cosmic wisdom, is nattering about a river that flowed uphill, defying every sensible rule of water behavior. The air's buzzing with the gasps of pilgrims, the rustle of cotton saris, and the clink of a bronze lamp knocked over in disbelief. This myth, tucked into Vedic texts, had sages stroking their chins in confusion. Let's dive into this watery rebellion, letting the flicker of a lamp, the whiff of incense, and the priest's earnest babble make you chuckle as you drift toward sleep. The story claims a river in the north decided to ignore gravity, its waters climbing slopes like a particularly stubborn goat. The Rig Veda hints at such oddities, the air once heavy with the chant of priests and the smell of ghee. Pilgrims clutching rice offerings probably muttered, "Really, river?" Show off, the air filled with the splash of water and the scent of lotus. Nobody knew why it pulled this stunt. The air tense with the weight of mystery, and the hope Varuna wasn't just messing with them. Life got a bit splashy around this myth. Farmers tossing rice into the river like it was a diva demanding tribute, filled the air with clinks and prayers, probably grumbling, "Just flow normally, please." Women washing clothes nearby swapped theories. Maybe the river was showing off for the gods. The air heavy with the slap of cloth and the scent of water. Temples to Varuna got extra smoky, the air tense with offerings and priests muttering about aquatic attitude. The community ate it up, laughing over it by lamplight, the air thick with oil fumes and giggles at the river's audacity. The upward flow stayed unexplained, a liquid middle finger to physics. And as the ripples fade, let's float to China, where a dragon's cry was all roar and no dragon. Picture yourself chilling by a bamboo grove in ancient China, 200 BCE. The air cool with the scent of rice, earth, and the faint whiff of someone's overcooked dumplings. A storyteller, probably waving a fan for dramatic effect, is going on about a dragon's cry echoing through the hills with no scaly beast in sight. The air's humming with the murmurs of villagers, the rustle of silk, and the clink of a jade cup someone's fumbled. This myth, scribbled in Han texts, had scholars scratching their heads like it was a bad itch. Let's lean into this noisy tale, letting the flicker of a lantern, the scent of incense, and the storyteller's over-the-top wail make you snicker as you doze off. The tale claims a hill in Shanxi, let out a dragon's bellow, deep and dramatic, without a single claw or scale to show for it. The Shiji mentions these weird noises, the air once thick with the scratch of brushes and the smell of ink. Farmers, pausing their plowing, probably muttered, "Okay, dragon, use your indoor voice." The air was filled with the thud of hoes, and the scent of rice tense with the hope it wasn't a cosmic tantrum. Was it a spirit having a bad day, or a dragon ghosting its own gig? The air buzzed with shrugs and confusion. Life got loud around this myth. Villagers tossing rice at the hills like they were calming a cranky toddler filled the air with clinks and prayers, probably grumbling, "Roar somewhere else." Women weaving mats nearby swapped theories. Maybe the dragon was just shy, the air heavy with the rustle of bamboo and the scent of earth. Shrines to the dragon got extra smoky, the air tense with offerings and elders droning about celestial noise complaints. The community loved the gossip, chuckling over it by lantern light, the air thick with oil fumes, and laughter at the dragon's no-show. The cry stayed unexplained, a sonic mystery, and as the hills quiet, let's drift to Scandinavia, where a light decided to dance like nobody was watching. Imagine huddling by a Viking fire in Scandinavia, 100 CE, the air chilly with the scent of pine, smoke, and the faint whiff of someone's soggy fur cloak. A skald, looking like he's about to launch into a ballad, is spinning a tale about a light that danced in the northern sky, throwing a cosmic rave with no invitation list. The air's alive with the crackle of flames, the rustle of furs, and the clink of a horn cup someone's dropped in awe. This myth, woven into sagas, had warriors squinting in confusion. Let's dive into this glowing party, letting the scent of resin, the skald's dramatic flair, and the light's wild moves make you giggle as you drift toward sleep. The story claims the sky over the fjords lit up with green waves, shimmying like it was auditioning for Valhalla's dance troupe. Sagas, later scribbled down, hint at these lights, the air once heavy with the chant of skalds and the smell of mead. Warriors, pausing their feasts, probably muttered, "Odin, mate, turn it down." The air was filled with the clink of bone and the scent of smoke, tense with the hope it wasn't the end of the world. Was it the gods throwing a bash or spirits gate-crashing? Nobody knew, and the air buzzed with baffled grunts. Life got flashy around this myth. Hunters, splashing mead at the sky like they were toasting a celestial DJ, filled the air with splashes and prayers, probably grumbling, "Dance somewhere else." Women weaving by the fire swapped theories. Maybe Freya was showing off her glow-up. The air heavy with the clack of looms and the scent of wool. Shrines to the gods got extra smoky. The air tense with offerings and elders muttering about divine light shows. The community loved the tale, laughing over it by firelight. The air thick with pine fumes and giggles at the sky's antics. The lights kept dancing, a cosmic mystery, and as the glow fades, let's hop to the Yucatan, where a jaguar's eyes were all stare and no cat. Picture yourself by a Mayan fire in the Yucatan, 200 CE, the air warm with the scent of copal, maize, and the faint whiff of someone's sweaty cotton tunic. A priest, looking like he's about to drop a prophecy, is yammering about glowing jaguar eyes in the jungle. No actual jaguar attached. The air's buzzing with the gasps of listeners, the rustle of cotton, and the clink of a jade bead someone's fumbled. This myth, carved into stone glyphs, had even the sharpest priests stumped. Let's slink into this creepy tale, letting the flicker of flames, the scent of incense, and the priest's spooky vibe make you chuckle as you sink toward slumber. The story claims a pair of eyes glowed in the forest, bright and unblinking, prowling without a jaguar to back them up. Glyphs from Tickle, chipped out by annoyed scribes, mention this eerie stare. The air once thick with the chisel's tap and the smell of stone. Hunters gripping spears probably muttered, "Eyes really? Get a body." The air was filled with the rustle of leaves and the scent of earth, tense with the hope it wasn't a curse. Was it Itzamna's prank or a ghost cat? The air buzzed with shrugs and nervous laughs. Life got spooky around this myth. Farmers, tossing maize at the jungle like they were bribing a phantom kitty, filled the air with clinks and prayers, probably grumbling, "Just blink already." Women weaving textiles nearby swapped theories maybe. The jaguar was just shy the air, heavy with the clack of looms and the scent of cotton. Temples to the gods got extra smoky, the air tense with offerings and priests muttering about divine staring contests. The community loved the gossip, snickering over it by firelight, the air thick with smoke and laughter at the eye's nerve. The glow stayed unexplained, a feline mystery, and as the jungle quiets, let's drift to Mesopotamia, where a flame burned with no fuel and a lot of attitude. Imagine lounging by a ziggurat in Babylon, 1000 BCE, the air warm with the scent of myrrh, clay, and the faint whiff of someone's overdone barley stew. A priest, looking like he's about to sell you a used chariot, is spinning a yarn about a flame that burned without fuel, glowing in a desert shrine like it had a personal vendetta against physics. The air's buzzing with the murmurs of pilgrims, the rustle of linen, and the clink of a bronze lamp knocked over in awe. This myth, scratched onto clay tablets, had scribes throwing up their hands. Let's dive into this fiery tale, letting the flicker of flames, the scent of oil, and the priest's smug tone make you snicker as you doze off. The story claims a flame in a Shamash shrine burned without oil or wood, just sitting there, smugly eternal. Tablets from Sippar, etched by scribes who were clearly done, mention this cheeky fire, the air once thick with the scratch of stilly and the smell of clay. Pilgrims clutching offerings probably muttered, "Okay, flame, who's your supplier?" The air was filled with the clink of pottery and the scent of myrrh, tense with the hope it wasn't a divine prank. Was it Shamash showing off or a spirit with a lighter? Nobody knew, and the air buzzed with confused grumbles. Life got toasty around this myth. Scribes, splashing oil at the shrine like they were bribing a campfire, filled the air with splashes and prayers, probably grumbling, "Burn somewhere else." Women baking bread nearby swapped theories. Maybe the flame was just stubborn, the air heavy with the scent of char and the thud of pestles. Temples to Shamash got extra smoky, the air tense with offerings and priests muttering about divine pyromania. The community loved the tale, chuckling over it by lamplight, the air thick with oil fumes and giggles at the flame's audacity. The fire stayed unexplained, a blazing mystery, and as its glow fades, let's hop to Rome, where a statue cried like it was in a soap opera. Picture yourself sprawled by a Roman forum, 100 CE, the air warm with the scent of olive oil, dust, and the faint whiff of someone's questionable toga. A bard, looking like he's ready to oversell a prophecy, is yammering about a statue of Juno that wept real tears, no plumbing required. The air's buzzing with the gasps of passers-by, the rustle of tunics and the clink of a bronze coin dropped in shock. This myth, noted in Roman annals, had even senators raising eyebrows. Let's lean into this weepy tale, letting the flicker of a lamp, the scent of wax, and the bard's melodramatic tone make you chuckle as you drift toward sleep. The story claims a Juno statue in a temple started crying, its tears dripping like it was auditioning for a tragedy. Livy's histories, scribbled by annoyed clerks, mention this soggy spectacle. The air once thick with the scratch of quills and the smell of ink. Citizens, pausing their market haggling, probably muttered, "Juno, get it together." The air was filled with the clink of coins and the scent of oil, tense with the hope it wasn't a bad omen. Was it a goddess's meltdown or a leaky roof? The air buzzed with shrugs and snickers. Life got damp around this myth. Merchants, tossing wine at the statue like they were calming a diva, filled the air with splashes and prayers, probably grumbling, "Cry somewhere else." Women weaving nearby swapped theories. Maybe Juno was just homesick. The air heavy with the clack of looms and the scent of wool. Temples to Juno got extra smoky, the air tense with offerings and priests muttering about divine waterworks. The community loved the gossip, laughing over it by lamplight, the air thick with wax fumes and giggles at the statue's drama. The tears stayed unexplained, a soggy mystery, and as the forum quiets, let's shift to a final reflection, tying these tales together with a smirk. As the hum of ancient gossip fades, the drone of priests, the rustle of tunics, the scent of myrrh and slightly burnt bread, let your mind flop into the quiet like a tired trader after a long market day. We've wandered through tales of rogue stars, singing seas, and overly emotional statues, each a quirky puzzle that had ancient folks chuckling and scratching their heads. Their world was a riot of gods, goats, and unexplained shenanigans. Yet it was also a cozy place where a good story could make any night feel like a comedy show. Picture yourself now tucked into a soft bed, the air still and the absurdities of their time far away, their laughter a distant echo. These myths, nutty and unsolved, remind us that even the ancients loved a good giggle over life's weird bits. Let the details slip away like a clay tablet crumbling in the sand. The smoky ziggurats, the chatty forests, the taste of figs and wine, they fade into the background, leaving only the peace of this moment and a lingering smirk. You've journeyed through a world that laughed at its own mysteries, its storytellers' cheeky voices and daft tailies keeping its spirit alive. Now it's time to rest, to let go of the cosmic chaos and sink into calm. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the gentle absurdity of history lull you into sleep, safe in the silliness of now.